Hi, I'm Clinton.
I'm Claude, and we're the lamest offenders. So for today, we are actually doing a full series recap / review on WandaVision. So let's get started.
Hi, Thanos. We're the lamest offenders.
I don't even know who you are.
We have a small but dedicated fan base.
Be sure to visit our sponsor at BaskervilleProductions.com.
Welcome back. So let's just jump right into this. So one of the things that I really appreciated for WandaVision was just kind of a different side of, Wanda Maximoff and Vision, because I was telling Clinton before we started filming that they've been kind of two-bit characters for a lot of the MCU where it's been super serious, super drab. So now it was kind of, and you could tell the actors had a lot of fun just playing around in the setting of the 1950s, 60s, and all that stuff, where you actually get to see him be a little bit more funny. So,
yeah, Paul Bettany especially, he looked like he was kind of like, I want to say he didn't chew the scenery, but like not as a negative thing, but he just enjoyed himself. He was having fun with it too.
Right. So and I think that's just one of the strong points for this entire series was just, especially the first couple episodes, were just the different time pieces and different settings and the inspiration they took from some of the classic sitcoms of yesteryear. So it's going to go in the box. I think where this series kind of struggled for me, at least in the beginning, was it felt like there wasn't a lot of momentum going forward with plot movement. Like it just seemed like they were kind of just spinning their wheels for a little bit.
Yeah, it took a while to get going. Was it like episode 3 or 4 before things really started to happen? So
right.
I mean, which isn't really, I guess, we're not used to that.
Right.
We're used to the movies. So it was a nice slower burn, but the first 2 episodes were almost non-existent. Like it was so bizarre. You almost could have just started on episode 3 and been just fine.
Yeah, if I wasn't a huge Marvel fan or even really like following television, honestly, like just seeing those first 2 episodes, I would have been bored.
Yeah, it was just like, okay. I mean,
this is a thing. Where's the hype for this?
Yeah.
Like there's no aliens or Mandos running around.
Yeah.
So, and
they spliced in the Mandalorian just anywhere.
It's Disney, so who knows?
He's very hot right now. We have to put him in there.
So, that's one of the issues I had was just it was a little bit slow, and like you were saying, I mean, it is a TV show too, so it just. Compared to the later half, it's like the first half was just stuck in the mud, just revving its engine, just waiting to go. And then the last 3 episodes, it was like they had to rush through it real fast.
Breakneck pace at that point.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure global events probably had a hand in that.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, we were talking about that. How it just kind of seemed almost disjointed in parts. Like they had to kind of change things on the fly almost. So, which I'm sure happened to everybody. So
right, because originally it looked like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was supposed to come out last August. So then they switched that around just because they were supposed to be filming in Prague and everything got shut down in Europe. And the good US of A was like, oh, come on in, it's Georgia, finish your things. So they didn't care, it didn't exist.
What would you say was your the biggest positive surprise kind of thing from this show?
I think the biggest positive in general is just the fact that we get to see these 2 characters in a different light, and they had more, I guess, stuff to chew on in terms of plot. So,
sure,
because if you're just watching the movies, you're like, cool, like it kind of like an Endgame where it has that, if you watch our intro, it's that scene where Wanda is fighting Thanos, and you're like, where did she get all this power? Because she doesn't really show that in the movies very often. So she was really pissy, and with this, you actually understand the evolution of the character and why she's so powerful. So I do appreciate that, and I think that was probably my favorite part.
The series did well, kind of, I guess, backtracking, kind of informing the viewer what was going on. Granted, it's better if you watch the major movies,
right?
But as far as that, it was also kind of a hindrance to it too. I felt was the constant retreading. It's like, okay, we know this. Let's move on. For me, the biggest surprise. My biggest positive was also my biggest surprise, and that was Agatha Harkness. I loved that character. Catherine Hahn was phenomenal.
Yeah,
she was
knocked
great.
It out of the park.
She just we talk about Paul Bettany chewing the scenery. She enjoyed it so much. She was great. She looked like she was having just a ball.
I swear to God, if she's not in Doctor Strange, it's such a big miss.
And it's like the little touches she gave too, like at the end when and this is obviously spoilers. Like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, go on, get out.
Just go watch our other reviews if you want something else. So and
bump up that view count to 22.
Please. So at the end, when Wanda imprisons her as the nosy neighbor, you can just see like this pain in Catherine's eyes.
Yeah.
Like she's like,
Hiya, hun.
like she's screaming inside of her head. It was so well done. I loved it.
Definitely.
Yeah, she needs to be in more. Like this cannot be a one and done for her.
So in terms of negatives for me, I think my biggest negative was a lot of, it just felt like it was super rushed because there was a lot of good stuff with Monica Rambeau when she's introduced and her backstory with that.
Oh
but
gosh,
at the very end, it's just like this series needed an episode 10. Like
it did.
It was just way too much. And then I hate Darcy. I hate the character Darcy. Like, and it pains me to say this, but I wish she would have done more because she was basically like, why was she? I know. Why was she even in it to begin with? They just needed that like cliche, cyber hacker. You know,
she was honestly, she was like a character out of a Neil Breen movie. It was so funny. Like she could do no wrong. Yeah, she was great at everything. It was so funny to me.
Just her and Agent Woo is just like Marvel was just like just stick them in there. We need to tie it back up with the MCU, and it's just like those characters need to do more, and then especially Monica because she was loved the actress, and it was really cool initially, but it was just like nothing. Like the biggest thing that happened was the end credits where the scroll lady was like, "We're going up there."
And
I was just
up to the roof.
Yeah, like where are we going? And then her showcase with her powers too. Like she literally just turned into Jello. Like her entire power set is so much more than that. And I wanted to see it. Maybe the budget ran out or they had a time restriction, but it was just really disappointing. She turned into the Capri Sun commercials. Where they're like the big silver blob.
For me, it was Director Hayward, and a lot of the sword stuff. Like that started off so strong.
It did.
Like Hayward, he gave you a purpose. He gave reasons for why he was doing this. Like the blip is the snap, whatever they want to call it now. It's like he said after that we can't go back to that ever again. Like you weren't here for that. He's talking to Monica. It's like you weren't here for that. I will never go through that again.
Yeah.
So he has actual purpose to this. Like he wants to prevent this from ever happening again. And then he just becomes bad guy of the week.
Twirling guy. Yeah.
It was such a bummer what they did with him.
That actor's got to be pissed because he's like, what the hell happened here?
I'm sure he's happy with the check.
Give me Disney money, baby. And then my other big bummer was Mr. Boner himself, Quicksilver, because that opened up so many cool things. And like,
oh my gosh,
I get it, like to the point where it's kind of like the Mandarin, like bait and switch type thing. But
doing that once is cool.
Yeah, this one was
twice is a bummer. Yeah, it was.
Especially with Evan Peters because he's such a charismatic actor too, and I'm like, I want to see more of him, and that was disappointing where he played Mr. Boner. One of the worst jokes in MCU history. Is probably the worst, I feel like. It was a dick joke.
And how was this all an illusion? Yeah. How did he have these powers?
I don't know.
Because we see that when Monica goes through the hex, when you go through the hex multiple times, or the bubble rather, it was hexing Monica, so she developed these powers. So is Wanda the nexus of all this now? Is she like the patient zero for X-Men now? Like mutants?
This one wasn't a huge issue, but it's still like what was whenever Wanda releases the fart hex, and then all the people are just like, I'm mad. I'm like. You would think they'd have something to go off of or say something, but they're just, it was kind of disappointing because there's no real ramifications for that, like so far that we've seen, because you could tell it was kind of rushed then for episode 9. Didn't have enough time to kind of show that off. Yeah, I don't know. There was another issue too where it teases a lot before, with like Monica's like engineer friend. And I don't know if they did this on purpose where it's literally just the Air Force woman in the field, where we joked about that for that episode review. We're like, that's stupid. Like there's no way it's that. And they don't really address it. And it's kind of like, I think for me personally, and a lot of people out there, why WandaVision kind of fell flat, I mean, other than it being rushed, was we had so many decent fan theories and like predictions, and then people just made stuff up. Where you're like, there's no way they're not going to do that because that's so plausible, but they do something that wasn't plausible, and that was just ended it the way they did. So
yeah, it was. I know they don't want these to just be like a one-off kind of thing. Like they want them to be a part of the actual MCU, but there were definite consequences for this. But I felt they could have done. I feel like we're really dumping on this, and I genuinely liked the show. Sure. I thought it was great, but it was also just kind of we're just pointing out some problems too that we have with it. Yeah, it's like the whole Doctor Strange cameo and all that stuff that we thought for sure was going to be there didn't turn out, which was fine. Honestly, we don't need all these cameos. Like it's okay, let it stand on its own merit, which it did. But it was just kind of it's just weird. Like no.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
It wasn't cohesive. Like it didn't feel very cohesive to me.
Or maybe they should have addressed it where they actually filled in that space where there's no wiggle room where you would think a cameo would be. I think the dumbest one was whenever people thought they were going to have Reed Richards like 3 years before Fantastic Four. That's where everyone was all pissy, especially on the Reddit. I'm going to call them out. But they're like, I can't believe this didn't happen or whatever. I'm like, did you honestly think Reed Richards is going to pop up in this show?
No.
Yeah, there's no way.
Way too early for that. I think they just got the rights to at that point. Like they weren't just just throw him in there.
Get
John Krasinski, put some gray in his sideburns.
I mean, given time, it's still, I think at the earliest, it's coming out in 2023. So,
at the earliest.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. But I think just to kind of wrap this all up, I really enjoyed the show. I think it was good by itself. I think my biggest problem is what we addressed was there should have been an episode 10 where episode 9 didn't feel as rushed. We should have had more things with the twins and everything. We didn't even talk about that, but I mean, we know they're coming back based on, the after credits scene. But honestly, as a standalone show, I really like it. I like what Disney Plus is doing with it.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to worship this kind of like a lot of the most recent MCU products. I think it was good, and I honestly you can give it an 8. Like I enjoyed it.
I would give it a 7. I thought it, but that's sometimes
7's still good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes 7s can be a negative thing, but it's like that's a really good thing. Like I will watch this again. I will enjoy this again. It was great. I really liked it. I just thought a few things kept it back from being really fantastic.
No pun intended.
Mainly Reed Richards. Got him. But no, it was a very good show, very well done. I cannot wait for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
That's the one I really want to watch.
Next week. Yeah. I can't wait for like a weekly spy thriller. That's going to be phenomenal.
Zemo, baby.
Yeah.
So for our next video too is we hope to do kind of a repercussions of what WandaVision could mean for the MCU moving forward. We'll do that before our Falcon and the Winter Soldier review for episode 1 next week. But that's pretty much all we have for this episode. But we'll catch you guys next week, and thanks for watching.
Thanks so much. Stay lame.
Bye!